A very good afternoon, everybody. A very good afternoon. I hope your Thursday has gone well and we meet together ready for our Thursday thought on a Bible phrase that perhaps took the early listeners' breath away. I hope you've enjoyed Ascension Day, whatever you've been doing, and perhaps you caught a glimpse of our service from church early on, and then the beating of the bounds, which was tweeted. And on the word tweeted, we've got to 5:30 itself. So welcome everybody if you've just tuned in to watch our thought on a Bible phrase from St. Michael at the Northgate Church in Oxford. Last week, we looked at Belshazzar and an unfortunate feast where people got a bit carried away and precious goblets and silver were taken out, and then the writing on the wall appeared. Many hundreds of years later, our context tonight is another drunken feast, but this time it's being held by Herod. Herod, the son of Herod the Great, the one who had tried to kill Jesus as a baby, the one who put together most of the plans for the great temple in Jerusalem. He had died and his family had taken over, and one particular Herod took over rule of part of what we now call Israel. Herod threw a party and lots of people were there, and there's possibly a little bit too much drink, and then someone comes in to dance, and it is Herod's stepdaughter. He had several stepdaughters, and we know that one was called Salome, and we think this is the one. She's not named as such in the account by Matthew, but tradition has it that this was Salome. Salome comes and does a dance, and perhaps a not entirely appropriate dance. And the listeners may just have pondered this. Here was a young lady doing a not entirely appropriate dance for her father's guests, her stepfather's guests, and the stepfather himself. Doesn't quite feel right, feels slightly awkward, embarrassing. Whatever is going on there doesn't quite feel right. Herod thinks the dance is great, or maybe he's looking at his guests and they're responding very enthusiastically. And so Herod says, "Well done, fantastic. Let me give you anything you want, even half my kingdom." And Salome at that point says nothing at all, maybe a little bit overwhelmed by the whole occasion, and leaves and consults her mother, Herodias, and says, "What shall I ask for?" And Herodias does not say, "Well, ask for a new necklace or a great feast for my friends or something." She says, ice cold, say, "Give me the head of John the Baptist on a plate." Salome goes back into the crowded hall. I imagine that silence would have fallen as she returns. Everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen. Herod has made these extraordinary words, and what will happen now? And Salome repeats the words, "Give me the head of John the Baptist on a plate." The "on the plate" is a joke, but it's not terribly funny. And of course, what it's referring to is this was a feast, lots of other things being brought in on great plates and platters. So let's just have the head of John the Baptist brought in as if for part of our feast. It's not funny at all, and it's profoundly shocking. John the Baptist had been the one who had called Israel to new beginnings, an exhilarating ministry by the River Jordan, and many baptized, including perhaps some present at that feast. And yes, he had criticized Herod for his marriage to Herodias for various complex spiritual moral reasons. But still, Herod was intrigued by him, enjoyed talking with him. And John the Baptist was, if I may put it like this, the big player in culture at the time, and albeit held in a prison, held in a dungeon underneath the palace, but still he was a significant player. Give me the head of John the Baptist on a plate. What is Herod going to do? Now, it's very easy to think that Herod was trapped at this point. He had made this promise in front of all his friends. But in fact, he wasn't trapped at all. He was still the king. And it would have been totally fine for him to say, "Now, you know that I was just joking, but if you want this particular goblet or a party for your friends or whatever it may be, then I will give this. But Salome, you do not ask for something like this. You know that." Herod is not trapped. He is the king. But maybe he feels more trapped than in fact he actually is. And he says, "Okay." Now, at that point, I think nearly everybody in that dining hall would have been very shocked. And maybe Herod had felt, well, I will just play it that I'm the big man at the feast. If Salome asks for this, then I will fulfill my promise. And I don't want to look like a silly old man who's just giving way. But in fact, he is looking increasingly like a silly old man who's dug himself into a hole and can't see to get himself out. And also a cruel man and a harsh man, and hasn't played this one well. My guess is that there would have been nobody in that hall who would have respected him at that point. I don't think his friends would. I don't think Salome would have done if Herodias was peering round the doorway, listening, wondering how the request had landed. I don't think she would have done either. She'd have been glad that she'd have got her way. She hated John the Baptist, but I'm not sure respect for Herod at that point would have been the top thing on her mind. Herod had been manipulated into a terrible situation. John the Baptist is messily decapitated that night. I wonder if any of them slept well that evening. I wonder if Salome slept well. Her role in all this is quite strange. I wonder if Herod slept well. I think almost certainly not. I wonder if Herodias felt, well, I've got that job done, but whether her conscience was stirring a little bit. We know that Jesus appears in front of this same Herod on Good Friday morning. Pilate sends Jesus to Herod to say, what do you think? And Herod, wordlessly, but through various signals and signs, sends back the message, I think he's innocent. It's as if he doesn't want to make the same mistake again. News reaches Jesus, John the Baptist's cousin, that John the Baptist has been killed in this way. And we're told by Matthew that Jesus goes to a place on his own, to a solitary place. And maybe there he was deeply sad. He certainly would have been deeply sad for John the Baptist. Perhaps also he would have been sad for Salome. Perhaps also for Herod. Perhaps also for Herodias as well, knowing the secrets of all our hearts. It is a sad and messy example of how things can go terribly wrong. Once John the Baptist has died, Jesus' ministry begins, if I can put it like this, to move up a gear, and a new chapter begins. Thank you so much for listening this evening. Another one next Thursday. Thank you.